Next up, we have Dr. Mike Jones. He's the Managing Director of Impact Minerals, who've got projects over in New South Wales as well as WA. Mike Jones, over to you to tell the Impact Minerals story.
Great, thanks, Kerry, and always good to be back here at Virtual Gold. Of course, every time we meet, we're kind of hopeful we can actually meet in person the next time, and then, yet another.
I know.
Yeah, but it's a pity you couldn't have been over here at Diggers. It was the mood was great the week before last, and WA is obviously very buoyant. So despite President McGowan closing the borders, it seems to be working for us at the moment. But at some point, we're just going to have to learn to live with it. So let's see how we go.
Exactly right.
All right, Impact. Look, since we last spoke, we've had a bit of a quiet time, and I think quite rightly, there's a number of shareholders that are probably, wondering what's going on. And we've been in a lull between a very active first half of the year and certainly the end of last 2020, and gearing up to a very active end of 2021. And we can sort of go into into some of that as we go. But look, people know that our strategy is to have large strategic large strategic ground holdings in prospective terrain. So we're a big ground holder, if not the largest now in Broken Hill. Also in the Lockfall Belt with our Commonwealth project, big copper gold country there. And then increasingly, we've been adding to our position of ground holdings in WA. And I think we're going to see a lot of news from that area between now and the end of the year. So look, not much change in the company. We raised money back in June this year, $4 million. We're sort of about 2.9 in the bank. That number's just a little bit out of date there on the screen. And the price has been sort of hanging in there at about 1.2, 1.3. And we can see that the price has drifted back. And that's really been driven by the poor results and the lack of news flow on our Apsley target. Apsley is in the Lockfall Belt. It's located only about 20 kilometres away from the Boda discovery. And I'm hoping that by the time, people have seen today's announcement that we've got the drill results out from Apsley. And look, what we've found is a very large alteration halo. And it's of significant size. There's lots of low-grade copper, and we think there's definitely a big system there. However, trying to find the core of it won't be as easy as we were hoping. It was a disappointing outcome for us, but look, that's that's exploration.
But that's also looking for a large porphyry, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. A big porphyry copper gold deposit. So what we're trying to do is replicate the success of Boda, which is Alkane's discovery, and they announced this week some good results from near surface. And again, that's an area I always like to emphasise that sort of has been 50 years of exploration between the first drill hole at Boda and the discovery hole in September 2019. It would have been. So 1969, the first hole went into that prospect.
And that's what people don't realise. And I think that these big porphyry copper gold systems, they're funny little buggers, aren't they? Because they're very hard to find. But when you do find them, it's like the mother lode. That's
right. Exactly right. And look, there's a number of companies like ourselves, the Magmatic, Sultan, Kincora, that all started off with great projects and great prospects, but it's actually turned out to be not as easy, I think, as everyone was hoping it was going to be in terms of the next wave of discoveries. But look, one of the things that's happened over the last decade, and we've spoken about this before, is that it's now relatively easy for companies like ourselves to generate some very good geochemical data. And there's been some very good models put together for porphyry copper exploration, which might allow us then to vector into what we hope is the core. But this is probably a good opportunity just to, as a technical nuance, as usual with Impact, is that most of that work that's been published is for what we call a calc-alkaline porphyry system, which are the big classic ones like in North America and Yarrington and Bingham Canyon and things like that. And yet the ones in the Lockfall Belt, so in particular Ridgeway, which is the one that we all quote as being the one that we're looking for, and also Cadia East, they're what are called alkaline systems, and the alteration around them is actually different to the calc-alkaline or the more classic porphyry system. And so whilst those generally well-known models sort of get you into an area, we now know for a fact from the work we've been doing with codes and a few of the consultants around, is that the alteration around these things is actually different. It's a different kind of set of metals. So we're really trying to get our head around that. And so we could actually only be a couple of 100 meters away, we now know, from something significant. And the challenge becomes, focusing in from there. So look, it's a great story still. It won't be easy. And, in the short term, our money is going to be better off spent, drilling our other projects. And, if people got any questions, are always welcome to call and ask.
Absolutely. But these, as you say, you've got to be patient with these things. But when you do come across them, and Lockfall Belt, we've spoken about it before. We love this area, and we know that it's very prospective. And so you're not saying we're not going back, but it's just you've got others which are more prospective that you're focusing on going forward for the moment.
That's right. I mean, because we're a multi-commodity explorer, a lot of people sort of say, well, you seem to be jumping around from project to project, but what we run is a target portfolio, which I said that before. All of our targets and prospects are ranked across all of the projects, and then we will move from one to the other depending on how they're ranked. So if I was just a gold only company and I had 10 gold projects all lined up, one in a row, but across different parts of the country, nobody would question me jumping from one to the other. But I've got a nickel copper PG target at Broken Hill that's higher ranked than a copper project in the Lachlan that's higher ranked than a soil geochemistry anomaly for gold in WA, and that's kind of how we work. So it's portfolio and risk management. To the best of our ability. So so that hopefully answers a few questions for people out there. So look, moving on from Ashley, then we will be back to Broken Hill later this year. That is our flagship project, and we're at a precious metals conference, the virtual gold conference. And as people know, look, we've been active here for some time now, and it has exceptional grades of all 6 of the platinum group metals. So that's palladium, platinum, osmium, ruthenium, ruthenium and iridium. Can't even remember them all. I have to sing them. And look, we've got 3 key targets that we drilled last year: Platinum Springs in the northeast, Red Hill, and then Middle Broken Hill Gabbro. And really 2 of those now really stood out. We've had excellent results at Platinum Springs, and in particular, I think at Little Broken Hill Gabbro, and that's going to be the focus of our work as we go back. We've actually acquired more ground since this map shown here was put out, just to the north of Broken Hill. And there is tremendous silver, lead, zinc potential across our ground, and we're looking at various strategies to move that forward, because that probably isn't something that we should be doing. So we're putting together that package at the moment. So a quick reminder. So this is what we're looking for. We're looking for this massive sulfide that we discovered some years ago at Platinum Springs. It was only 60 centimeters thick. But my experience has been, if you can find one that's 60 centimeters, you can find one that's hopefully at least 6 meters, if not 60 meters thick. And this, as I've said before, is probably amongst the richest ore in Australia, if not the richest, if we can find enough of it. 0.6 meters at 11 grams platinum, 25 grams palladium. It's 1.5 grams of gold. It's 15% nickel plus copper, 1.5 ounces of silver. It's got cobalt in there. And then this is the interesting thing. It's got sort of between 1 and 2 grams of these rare platinum group metals, so rhodium, iridium, osmium, ruthenium, which are used in a wide range of specialty metals applications, and increasingly so. And so it's an incredible and unique set of mineralization. So we've been working on what the controls are on that for some time. We think we've got some ideas. We're reprocessing some airborne magnetic data at the moment to better define the entire system, which at the moment is about 9 kilometers long, as we can see on this slide here. It's dripping with PGEs, but amazingly enough, has only been drilled in one place in any detail, and that's down at Platinum Springs. And that's been drilled on and off for the last 30 or 40 years. And the reason it's so difficult is that, as we said before, and I won't dwell on it, it's exploration for platinum group metals is difficult. You can't see them, you have to send them to the laboratory, you can't measure them directly with a handheld XRF. And so here's a boring old rock from Canada, and it's carrying 18 grams of palladium. And so,
wow.
It takes time then to send it to the lab. You don't know what's in the rock, blah, blah, blah. And so it just adds to the time taken to do it.
And also the labs at the moment, Mike, they're not being quick because they're very busy.
Even worse, and through no fault of their own. It's just there's the volume of samples and the amount of work. I mean, I know the market might be a little bit flat at the moment, but man, everyone is still booming. Everyone is busy. and incredibly so. And so, as you know, we developed this ratio that we can measure with a handheld XRF instrument. Based on a number of metals and non-metals and things like that, it's like we can, there's a direct relationship to the grade of the platinum group metals. And so we can measure it on the chips or on the core as it comes out of the ground and get an idea, what the grade is, or rough idea, and allows us then to sort of keep drilling without having to wait for the assays. And that really is certainly an Australian first breakthrough as far as we know, maybe globally. We're very proud of what we've done there. And one of the outcomes of that was we discovered this basal channel at the bottom of the unit that hosts the platinum group metals. By moving the reed backwards and forwards, guided by the ratio, we got this standout hit here, meter of 3.3% nickel, 1% copper, and 22 grams with platinum group metals in it. So that, it was an outstanding discovery for us. However, it is small, and so what we're looking for now is what the controls on this channel are, so that we can hopefully find something bigger. And we're applying the same philosophy to our Little Broken Hill gabbro project. It's about 30 k's from Platinum Springs. It's one large body shown here in the red, and it's about 6.5, 7 kilometres long. And the main area of focus is sort of around the margins, in particular on the western margin, where there's an ultramafic unit. You can see these little white dots. These are the drill holes that we put in. And basically every drill hole bar, I think now it's getting out of control. Every drill hole bar one that's gone into into the edge of that thing has come back with a very anomalous PGE. So there's a 60-meter intersection here. It's 0.4, which might not sound a lot, but it's actually adding up to quite a significant inventory of platinum group metals at the base of this unit. And there are higher grade zones, 12 meters at 1.4, gold, palladium, and platinum, and some copper in there, meter at 2.3, meter at 2.6. So, all very encouraging. As we've seen from nickel exploration in these channels, and we think we might be on the edge of one here. You can see the higher grade sort of starting to form here at the base. We think there's a good chance that this is going to open up and find a massive sulfide deposit. So we're considering next steps. We're still working through all of the data that we got from last year and some diamond drilling that we did early this year, just to take a look at mineralization. And we'll have the results of that. The assays are back. We'll be back shortly. We're not expecting anything too different to what we've already seen here. But look, this thing is dripping again with PGEs at the base. And we think it's got huge potential as we go forward. So that'll be a big focus for us between now and the end of the year.
Because I remember last time we spoke, this was something, you said the Little Broken Hill gabbro was something that actually got you pretty excited. So
yeah, it certainly does, and that hasn't changed. I mean, one of the things I didn't speak about is that you can sort of see these breaks in the data here that sort of cutting across on a sort of east-west or west-northwest angle. And we think these are possibly the faults where the magma and the sulfides sort of, or hopefully sulfides, migrated out into these sort of bigger linear areas. And these are called feeder zones, and they're very important in big deposits like Wazzy's Bay, the giant nickel deposit in Canada that most people have heard about. And then we did some shallow drilling here in the center, just hoping to see a leakage anomaly, something that sort of leaks up through the top. And we've actually got, modest, very modest, but low grade, but certainly focused over this structure. We've got PGEs and quite a bit of copper, appearing here. We think that that's a really good sign that, that depth, as we get, where this basal unit comes underneath, intersects this structure, we think that's a great target area. And that'll be one of the areas that we start to drill, later this year. So look, the next big news, though, is really going to be coming from our 2 WA projects. And we've got, here is our Arkham project. And we're sort of in the emerging mineral province of the southwest of WA, of course, driven by the magnificent discovery of Julimar, which is shown here. And obviously,
and sorry to interrupt you, Mike. Sorry, for those of you that don't know what he means by Julimar, that is a discovery made by Chalice Mining, which put a rocket under their share price because it's a big discovery of some nickel PGEs, isn't it?
It's PGE dominant with some copper and nickel, but it's a very palladium rich system. It's going to be many millions of ounces. It certainly is a global discovery. and people should just keep watching that thing as it as it grows. And there's been a bit of work done since. So I think we've had Caspin and we've had Mandrake do some work in through there. Again, similar kind of story to the Lockfall Belt. Not as easy as I think as everyone was hoping, but certainly we're finding these PGE-rich intrusions in many places that people just didn't think about them existing. So and we're going to see a lot more effort and work coming through this whole belt up to Mora, and then really the whole edge of this of WA from north to south, for another few hundred kilometres to the north, is all now starting to be being actively explored. And a bit like the Albany-Fraser Belt down here, in the southeast, after the initial Nova discovery, it's taken some time to sort of get to the next one, but they are starting to come. So we picked up the Arkham project here. Now, it's not on the edge of the craton here, but it's on these major structures that are very visible in magnetic data. And, we pegged this and announced it to the stock market. And on the same day, I said, before Anglo-American pegged this huge ground holding around us 10,000 square kilometres. So I think we just picked them to the post, and I thought we better act now or we might miss out completely. And we've added to our ground since, and we're still waiting for a few approvals to go through before we sort of fully announce that. But we've added, people can look it up on the web, and so we've added to our position in this area. And look, the whole region is full of sort of little magnetic anomalies, and there's three shown here just for example. So we've got the Julimar discovery in the centre here, and the main intrusion is this little blip at the bottom. If you can see my arrow moving there. And so we've got our Bow project here, and then it's also similar in size to our the Newlyon intrusion that Mandrake have just drilled. Again, not a lot of massive sulfide, but waiting to see what the PGE results will be there.
So Impacts one is on the left. It's the Bow one, yeah.
That's right. That's Bow, and that's this little area here. We bought that because we like to look at the intrusion from a prospector last year, and it's right in the middle of Anglo-American's ground, as you can see there as well. So so we think this whole area is going to emerge, and the Katanning gold deposit with Osgold, 1.5 million ounces, that's sitting through here. And so there's plenty of potential, not just for the Julimar discoveries, because we really don't know what that is yet. There's not been a lot of scientific work done on that particular body that hosts the PGEs there, whether it's what age it is or anything like that. So there's certainly potential on this for those, plus traditional greenstone belt gold and greenstone belt nickel. And there's never been any drilling done at Arkham at all. And so also coming out is news on the soil geochemistry. So we started the soil geochemistry program just over a month and a half ago. We're starting to see results coming in. We identified 17 targets, principally for nickel copper PGEs, a few sort of gold targets. And I have to say that so far, initial results indicate that 15 of them have actually come in with quite significant anomalies. And we've been very pleasantly surprised. We're not just only getting nickel copper PGEs, but we're getting indications of copper gold. And just because it's trendy, we've got lithium and some rare earths as well. And people sort of say, oh, you've got all these different things. Well, look, one of the outcomes of having large strategic ground holdings in these terrains is that they end up being prospective for more than what you originally pegged them for.
Absolutely.
And and the southwest is difficult to work in because a lot of it's freehold land, and there's a lot of landholder negotiations that need to be gone through. And we're just about to start that process now, because it's very clear we're going to have a huge amount of follow-up work to be done there on the ground between now and the end of the year. And we'll be drilling here, probably early in 2022.
Okay, we only got a minute left, Mike. So
we're just on the last slide, so that's
lucky.
Time. But the main news for drilling coming forward will also be our Dunia project here in WA. We're about 20 k's east of Burns, which is the Lefroy discovery. That's been a very exciting discovery. It's a new style of mineralisation, they're drilling that out as we speak. And we think we've got a lot of magnetic anomalies and a similar geochemical signature. And we've got heritage surveys starting in a couple of weeks. And fingers crossed, I've got access to a rig, and we should be up and drilling in the last quarter, and hopefully bring some news home by the end of the year.
So lots of news flow in the coming weeks and months from Impact Minerals. Mike Jones, Managing Director. You got a lot of things going on there, but I really wish you all the best. Dunia sounds pretty exciting. Thanks for joining us on the Virtual Gold Conference today.
Thanks, Kerry.